Shalom WJC family. It's time for our weekly Torah Talk. This week, the Torah portion is Pekudei, the very last Torah portion in the book of Shemot, the book of Exodus, usually paired with Vayakel in a double weekly portion, but not this time. This time, because it's a leap year, we have Pekudei standing alone. In Vayakel and Pekudei, we read about the construction, the creation of all the different pieces that would make up the tabernacle, the tent of meeting where people could come. The people could come and worship God in the desert. We know eventually these different utensils, the ark and the golden menorah, the lampstand, and the tables with the showbread and all these different pieces would end up in the Beit HaMikdash in Jerusalem, placed there by Solomon after the conquest of the land. So very, very important passage. I wanted to look particularly today at the creation of the ark. So the Ark of the Covenant, this beautiful golden chest inlaid with gold and coated with gold, so inside and out, with two kruvim, these two angels on the top facing each other. Now, when I think of the Ark, the first thing I think of is Raiders of the Lost Ark. What can I tell you? I'm a child of the 80s. But when I think about the Raiders of the Lost Ark version of the Ark, what I think of is the plot point of that movie, which is what? That the Nazi armies wanted to find the Ark because an army that marches with the Ark at its front cannot be defeated. In other words, the Ark being an ultimate weapon of war. Now, when I was a little kid, this seemed like a neat idea. But now when I think of this Ark as the centerpiece of the sanctuary, the Ark being the location where God would emanate, God obviously is everywhere, but would emanate into the world to be a felt presence among the Israelites, among the Jewish people. The idea of it as a weapon of war, I find a little less comfortable. And now, as the world is being drawn into this war of aggression by Russia against Ukraine, all the more so I read about the Ark, and seeing it as an implement of war is disturbing. Luckily, I am not the first to be disturbed by this, and the rabbis talked a lot about this idea, and they have various ways of explaining it differently, of demonstrating how the Ark of the Covenant, the golden ark that rested in the center of the sanctuary, is not, in fact, the ark that would go out to war, and that, in fact, the ark didn't really go out to war. It went out for different reasons. Right, so first of all, the Talmud spends quite a bit of time saying that this ark is not the ark that went out before the people. And we're told it goes out actually 3 days before the people. It's not like it goes out as a battering ram at the head of the troops, but when the people moved, when the people would go to a new place, whether there was going to be war there or not, the ark would go out with a group 3 days beforehand. Why? So first of all, what ark was this? So there's a debate in the Talmud, but most of the rabbis agree that it's not the golden ark, that stayed in the sanctuary, but in fact it was a different ark that Moses created, right? Because Moses smashes the tablets in the story of the golden calf long before there is a tabernacle. We don't even have the instructions for the tabernacle. So there was a box that Moshe put these shards of the tablets, of the original tablets in before they made it into the golden ark. And it was that ark that went out ahead of them. So the golden ark where God's presence rested was not involved in war in any way. Now, where did they get this idea? I'm not as concerned about that as I am concerned for the idea that the rabbis didn't like the idea of the ark where God's emanating in the world being a weapon of war. God's not a God of war. All right, and so that's not the way they explained it. Furthermore, they said, it's explained in the Midrash that the ark didn't go out to fight battles. It wasn't there on the battlefield, but it went out to make sure that when the place was settled, there would be an appropriate place to set up the tabernacle. It basically went to look for the place where the tabernacle would be set up in this new camp, to make sure that the tabernacle with the real ark, the Ark of the Covenant, the Golden Ark, would be in the right place. So it wasn't about the war at all. It was about scouting to make sure that they would end up in the right place. Another example of the Midrash trying to explain this idea that the ark went before the people in war, which it says in Bamidbar and mentions in Devarim. There's references to this idea that it's not really about war. Here's why that's so important. Because war itself is not a divine or sacred act. And the whole idea of the ark going before the people, before a war, that the sanctuary where it will be needs to be set up, is exactly to counteract the effects of war itself. Right? We have laws about war that are given to us in the Torah, in the book of Devarim and other places. And those are all seem to be protecting us against our worser instincts. Right? It says when you go to war, you can't just take a woman captive and have your way with her. You have to wait, give her time to mourn, and then ultimately marry her, if that's what to be. But so no, pillaging and grabbing all the women you can or whatever. When you besiege a city, you're not allowed to just wipe out all the trees and everything there. Again, why does the Torah need to give us these laws? Because it knows that war brings out the worst in people. As a matter of fact, although the Torah is aware that wars sometimes need to be fought, either for protection or in the Torah to ensure the Jewish presence in the Holy Land, a whole nother complicated area to discuss. But war itself, as far as the Torah is concerned, seems to be, I don't know another way to say it, an act of idolatry, right? It's about self-worship. It's about being the strongest. It's about expanding your territory, right? We see this with the war with Russia, right? It seems to be a war of ego as much as anything else. And that's self-worship. That's idolatry. So why does the Torah tell us that the ark has to go before the people, even if it's to scout where the sanctuary is going to go? To remind the people that though they may be waging war, right, not to get sucked into the idolatrous act in which they're committing. And so the Ark of the Covenant, the reminder of the one true God, a God of creation, not a God of destruction, a God of creation and peace, not a God of war. Right? The ark goes to remind people that war, maybe at times a necessary evil, should be avoided and should not be confused with the sacred act. Right? As far as the Torah is concerned, and I think the reason why the ark goes in the vanguard of the armies of the Jewish people is because there is no such thing as a holy war. There just isn't. Right? War is an unholy act. And what we're seeing going on in Europe right now, the creation of at least 500,000 refugees in Ukraine, the death of innocents, which is everyone, an unprovoked, aggressive attack by Russia, its leadership, and its troops. That is an unholy act. There is no justification. When we read about the ark, we should try to get the idea of Raiders of the Lost Ark. As good a movie as it is, as much as we love Indiana Jones, the Ark of the Covenant was not about war. It was not about leading armies to victory. It was about leading armies to righteousness, reminding people that war is not a righteous act, that peace is righteous, that peace is holy, that those who create peace and bring the reminder of the one true God, the God of holiness, the God of caring, the God of life into the world. That's what holy acts are all about, not about war. May that peace come quickly to Eastern Europe, to Ukraine, and throughout the world. Amen.